moving on.
Moving on to the San Francisco 49ers. Bit of a mixed bag at last year. Running back and tight end both finished top 12. Quarterback and wide receiver were kind of middle of the pack. Let's start off at the top, though. They paid Jimmy Garoppolo this offseason. What do we project for him in 2018?
Shit, looking at the wrong team. Somebody else go.
His ADP is 809, and I want nothing of it.
There we go.
Yeah, that's
7
gross.
career games. 5 career starts, or 5 starts last year for him. 7 touchdowns, 5 picks.
And his points per game is under 17 for those 7 games.
And they didn't add a true number 1 receiver.
Because he doesn't throw touchdowns. The head coach prefers to pass. Since 2013, he's averaged under 430 rush attempts. So that's usually, if you're getting a pretty good split, you're looking at about 450 on the ground or so.
Yeah.
So it's on average. So it's definitely a passing preferred. I expect them to be more competitive, as they did not lose after the Jimmy Garoppolo started starting, which I think shifts them more to kind of a running team in a sense. If they're more competitive, if they're playing ahead, they're not going to be throwing to catch up from behind as much.
Well, I'm not sure they're going to be a running team, though, because they have Jerick McKinnon and a bunch of maybes.
Now, keep in mind, I'm not saying that they're going to try to play defense and run the football. I'm saying they're not going to completely go away from the run, they did at times.
I'm just saying, don't draft Garoppolo in the 8th round.
No, don't do that.
I mean, he's my QB 18, and it's amazing what winning your first 7 games can do to you. I mean, that's great, but from a fantasy perspective,
you don't get points for wins.
He averaged 1 pick per start last year. So
yep, but 7 interceptable passes, 8 danger plays. But I will say this: they did throw the ball over 600 times last season.
Yeah,
and I expect some marginal improvements from that defense. But if they were still in the 580 range as far as pass attempts, I would not be surprised. And volume matters.
I like Garoppolo. I don't
like him in the 8th round.
I hate his ADP now.
You give him to me a round later, I might start thinking about it. 10 or 11, definitely yes, but not in 8.
And he's a
the love has gone a little too far. And we were talking super flex, dude, and especially in Dynasty, he's going at like QB 6 right now.
Yeah, it's insane.
And
it's insane.
He's 26 years old already. He's not like 22 or 23. He's 26. He's on his 2nd contract.
That's all right.
Ancient. Send him.
I'm not worried about the
Send him to the nursing home.
No, I'm saying strictly for like
though.
Dynasty. People are freaking out about it being the next big thing. It's like he's not a.
At least it's not like Deshaun Watson.
Quarterbacks can play until they're 37 or 38, though. It's not a running back.
Right.
You're right. It's just people are trying to buy him like they're the hot new young thing, and it's like he's already into his.
But he's so sexy.
He's really sexy. So he started those 5 games. So the pro Jimmy G argument is, out of those 4 out of those 5 games that he started, he threw for over 290 yards. So touchdowns are a fickle beast, and you could chalk that up to that and say, he was putting up the volume and hope that those touchdowns come. But I mean, as far as what you guys were saying, I mean, they haven't really added that many pass catching playmakers to really, to make you think that is going to change. So I like him. I think the upside is there, but in a single QB redraft league, I'm not taking him in the 8th round.
No, they get Garcon back, so that is kind of.
And they added Pettis.
In a way, an addition. And they added Pettis.
Richie James.
And Richie James, who we like here as well. And we like Marquise Goodwin, but there's nobody that you look at and you're like, okay, that's a top tier talent. Garcon's on the back end of his career, even though he's a super reliable one. We like what we see from Goodwin. He can't stay healthy. We love Pettis, but there's some development questions there. And Richie James, we love out of the slot. But they've got 3 slot receivers, so who the hell knows?
Speaking, which one of them is Pettis?
All right, and just so we don't have a repeat of the Brian Hoyer experience from last year, let's move on.
We're not drunk, super drunk for this.
Yeah,
one.
We were loving on Brian Hoyer.
You were loving on Brian Hoyer.
Dan was too.
I was too.
He showed up early, and I convinced him to do it with me.
All right, moving on to Jerick McKinnon. He was 25th in points per game last year. He's currently going at 210 in average draft position, 14th running back off the board. Do you think that's a fair price for Jerick McKinnon in 2018? Travis.
No.
Thank you.
I'm not. So I'm honestly. I'm not as much on the hate wagon as I was, but I'm not touching him in the 2nd round at all. And so I really was not into the Jerick McKinnon hype at all. And then the draft rolled around, and I mean, I like to I like to think that I can remain open-minded, and when you don't draft a single running back in the NFL draft, that means something to me. So he's definitely gone up, but I'm not on the camp that thinks he's going to be this workhorse running back and be a top 10 running back in fantasy at the end of the year. So I'm really not touching him in the second round. I'm going to go elsewhere with my draft pick.
So the thing that I've noticed with McKinnon and where he's been landing is it's kind of after you get out of the Fournettes and Kareem Hunts of the world, but he's going before Jordan Howard.
Yeah.
Which I don't agree with. We're not opening that can of worms here, Travis.
Is this PPR?
Yeah.
Half point.
Half point. So, but 25th in yards created while only being 34th in carries. That's something. He's kind of the perfect Kyle Shanahan type of back. And I think that even though you look at McKinnon and you say, okay, I don't see him being a workhorse, you look at the offense that he landed in, and that's what's making me salivate over this. Now, do I think he's worth the 13th running back? No. 14 to 16? Sure. Yeah, I do. They've improved the offensive line. They love to hand the ball off in the red zone. You look at the way that Breida and Joe Williams profile. I mean, they don't really have a banger on this roster. So, to me, the volume, I think they're going to try to get him the ball in space, work him outside, let him use that spark-laden athletic profile, and actually play. So he's very intriguing. And if I go running back at the top, I don't mind him. If I go running back wide receiver at the top, and he somehow falls to the third when everybody starts hating on him as the season wears on, then I'm down for that too.
I'm more so.
You think he's going to drop as we get closer? Because I think he might rise.
I think that for as many people as there are like me that like him, there's going to be a lot of people out there throwing cautionary tales also, because when you look into his numbers, when you deep dive in, and especially when you get stats guys in there looking at it, that you can definitely paint an argument for him being a bust. And I think that, the effect of podcast and the fantasy community is real for driving hype and killing it. And I think there might be enough naysayers to drive it down a little bit.
Okay, so he's my RB16, and you touched on it slightly from time to time. It's his efficiency, which worries me. He's been under 4 yards per carry for the last 2 seasons.
Yep.
And also just his juke rate, 23.8%. His breakaway rate is only 3.3%, and if he's going to make his day with low efficiency, you're going to have big plays to get that going. And the 1.33 yards created per carry, which is only 24th, which isn't bad, but he also doesn't look great against all 3 levels, of his fronts, stack, base, and light. And he's only had, I think, 8 career goal line carries, and he's never been the main guy. And Jeremy McNichols is maybe the only guy that profiles as the banner back, and he's not that much of a banner anyways, and he has to make the team. I just don't like him going in the second round. I have him as a 4th round pick for me personally.
As your 16th running back?
As an early 4th. He's the first pick in the 4th round.
Okay. I've got him in the 3rd as my 16th overall player.
Late 3rd, early 4th. Yeah.
He's more of a mid-3rd for me. My big argument against him is he's never had more than 202 touches. Ever. And there's been seasons where Peterson was gone after week 2, and he was basically him.
He couldn't beat Matt Asiata.
No, yeah, he could not beat Matt Asiata. I just don't see how he can profile as a 3-down back. The reason he's my 16th too is because I ran out of names to put in front of him.
Also, keep in mind the fact that when he couldn't beat Matt Asiata, nobody could freaking run behind that O-line. He couldn't even keep your quarterback upright.
This is true. But
yeah.
So
I don't know how great San Francisco's O-line. I think it's
should be
average.
They added McGlinchey, so they should
be it should be a little bit better.
And I'll get Joe Staley back, I think, who got hurt last year.
Yep.
So I mean, I like Kyle Shanahan, but
yeah, I like him more than I think he was going to be last year. It's a great landing spot for him. It was a massive boost to his dynasty stock, but I think the hype's gotten a little too high on him.
I agree.
All right, moving on. Let's figure out who his best pairing is, because as we've kind of established, he's not going to get all the work. Who do you like better between Matt Breida and Joe Williams?
Breida.
McNichols. I seriously think.
We're back on this.
Oh, yes. Fuck yeah! I ain't giving that.
We've
shit
come
up.
Full circle.
Here we go.
I mean, Joe Williams is hype. Well, yes.
Let's go in the way back machine.
Kyle Shanahan loves Joe Williams for some reason. But I think McNichols, who better profiles as the first, second down back, not saying that he will, I think could have value in this offense if he gets the touches.
We'll see how well that ages.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say about that.
Because Matt Breida is, a whole bunch of hype there. And he's massively inefficient.
He's 1307 in ADP, so there's not a ton of hype.
He's not exactly hyped up, but you're asking me who I like best to complement McKinnon. It's Matt Breida.
Travis?
Literally based on the way he's built.
Yeah, I'll go Breida. McNichols couldn't make his first team.
Well, I'm saying best match and pair. I don't know if he'll make the team. But McNichols is.
Well, we're acting to take out that crystal ball and make a prediction. All right, I also am going to go with Breida here. He's 46th in my rankings. I just think he'll pair better with McKinnon than he did Hyde even, because Hyde won't. McKinnon will take less work than Hyde did.
Yep.
All right, on to the receiving core. Three big names I starred here were Garcon, Goodwin, and Pettis, though you could also make an argument for Taylor, and they got a few other guys too, Richie James, and who's the other one who's blowing up in camp? I'm drawing a blank right now. Let me pull up the depth chart.
Okay.
When did it become so crowded there?
Kendrick Bourne.
Okay.
Bless you.
Who you like in there, and who are you going to be targeting in drafts?
Pierre Garcon. And
Marquise Goodwin is my boy.
Same here.
I love Marquise Goodwin, but with Garcon, 5.75 targets a game, 7.37 without. Partially that's due to Jimmy Garoppolo. They threw more. He did have a pretty terrible catchable target rate, but Goodwin's played one healthy season since coming into the league, and even then he was still nicked up last year. He played with like a bad back, I think a hamstring, and something else throughout the season. I like Marquise Goodwin.
You're the
you
highest,
guys that will remember, I was tooting for him last year.
Yep.
But you got Garcon, who saw 8.3 targets a game, which I think may stay about level. Jimmy Garoppolo, 9.7 yards per attempt last year. As far as distance traveled, that kind of fits Garcon's game, who had 9.8 yards per target, while Goodwin was working the field deep. I think that for Garoppolo, he's a very accurate thrower, especially mid to short range, that Pierre Garcon is just a better fit. I like Marquise Goodwin. I love Marquise Goodwin, especially in best ball. I really do. But if I'm going redraft and going Garcon, what's the ADPs, Dan?
Garcon 6'10", Goodwin's 905. Also, Garcon didn't play with Jimmy G at all last year, and you got to see a nice little chemistry built between Jimmy G and Goodwin, which is why I like Goodwin. I think Goodwin has a chance to supplant Garcon as the number one option on this team.
And I would love to see it happen.
Pierre Garcon's a 6th round pick.
Yeah, he's 6'10".
The ADP kind of changes that for me.
It does.
As far as I have it ranked on productivity, I like Garcon, but if you tell me that I can get Goodwin at the 905,
Done deal.
Yeah, I would rather do that.
All right, and then are you going to?
Goodwin had the second highest yards per reception in the league last year amongst players with over 100 targets.
Yep.
Which you could view that as, he's a pretty boomer bust then, right? He's this downfield guy, but
he wasn't though.
I really feel like he showed a lot last year that he's not that limited player. I think he can play in multiple areas of the field, and I really, really like the guy. I know. Have you guys heard his story at all? You should look it up if you haven't.
I have, yeah. And everything he went through last year and whatnot. Like, I love the character. And I want to see him succeed. And I was happy that he did well last year, not just because I called for it and it happened, but
that helps though.
That does help.
He likes his ego when he gets, or likes his stroked ego.
It's all good for Garoppolo though with those two.
Yeah. I have Garcon ranked slightly higher, but at the price they're going at, I'm taking Goodwin.
I have him eight spots apart. So yeah, I have Garcon slightly higher too.
I do also, but the ADP makes me want to wait on Goodwin more.
Definitely.
What do you guys think about Trent Taylor?
I would have liked him more if they didn't draft
Dante Pettis,
2 slot receivers, and
Richie James. That, to me, the fact that they took Pettis and Richie James tells me that they weren't sold on Trent Taylor as much as we were.
Yeah, they spent a second on Pettis when they just drafted Trent Taylor in the 5th the previous year. It doesn't seem like that they're that high on him.
So you guys view Pettis as a slot receiver?
He could be. He can run out of all 3 spots.
Yeah, I think he's got to be. I don't think you put him outside because that's kind of Goodwin's role.
Unless you want to move
and Garcon
into the slot.
You could put Garcon in the slot, yeah.
I mean, I think he'll be battling for that third spot with Trent Taylor to start the season, but I think Pettis is a guy, especially if the Niners take a leap in that passing offense, and that does happen. I think Pettis is a decent, maybe later season if he can get going, because they love Pettis there. I mean, they traded up to get him.
They took him at 211.
Yeah. They traded up to get him.
That was insane.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be a third rounder.
That was
for
pretty
sure.
nuts.
The fact that Pettis went over a round before Gallup did just blew my mind.
And he did break the college football record for punt return touchdowns. So if you play in a punt return league or just a yards return league, he's got some value there too.
Yep, he's 67th in my rankings. He's not on draft ADP currently, but I think he could surprise us with how quickly he contributes.
Can we get to a guy I really want to talk about?
All right, go off with George Kittle.
George Kittle.
Love Kittle.
George Kittle.
Saw about 4 targets a game with Jimmy Garoppolo starting, which should be due to increase. 81% catch rate over that time, which is absolutely absurd. But that's what Garoppolo is, and that's the type of game that Kittle plays. They fit really well together. He had 16 red zone and 6 end zone targets. That was more than any receiver on this team. ADP
1004, which is
give me that.
Pretty much right after all the main guys go, which is your top 8, 9. Yeah, depending on where you want to put Burton in that conversation.
He's the 11th tight end off the board.
If you can stay healthy, because he battled with injuries all last year, but him and Jimmy G are just in love, and I absolutely love George Kittle.
Are you shipping Jimmy G and George Kittle?
I'm shipping
Jimmy G for a reason. It's not Jimmy Garoppolo. It's Jimmy George. Or JK.
I see
Jimmy Kittle.
Him in the 58, 750 in the 50,
there is no reference.
50 plus receptions, 750 yards, 5 to 6 touchdown range, which is back in tight end 1.
750 yards.
That might be more.
That'd be close to about 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought for a second you said 1,150 yards.
Yeah.
And I was about to crown you as the new George Kittle truther.
750.
All right.
That's still pretty damn good.
It is, but I think he's the third receiving option on this team, and I love him as a red zone threat, and they do too. He's about the only person they threw to in the red zone last year.
Yeah, I love Kittle. I don't really have anything more to add.
All right.
I'm drafting it 10th round for sure.